Okay, so today we'll learn everything about eating right and eating correctly to gain muscle efficiently. And I'm also going to tell you why most guys do it wrong and end up actually staying skinny and not making any progress when it comes towards their training, even though they're training hard, right? So, firstly, calories. I don't think I need to explain what calories are. I'm pretty sure you guys know that, right? So, generally speaking, there's two kind of approaches when it comes to calories. Either they don't factor in calories at all and they kind of just main gain, basically they stay at maintenance calories, or the one group that just fully dirty bulks and eats way too much. You don't want to be in you don't want to be in any of these groups, right? So I'm going to teach you exactly everything you need to know about calories and how much to eat more, how much to eat less, and whatever, right? So as a complete beginner, I would recommend that you start tracking calories, simply to get a feeling of how much calories and proteins and macros certain foods have, so that later you don't really need to do this anymore, right? But as a beginner, you definitely should have some basic idea what's, for example, how much 100 grams of peanut butter has, how 100 grams of beef or whatever, right? So you should do this with an app. MyFitnessPal is a good free one. I'm not affiliated with them in any way, but that's just what I've used. Now, if MyFitnessPal doesn't work on your device, because on mine it doesn't, they banned it for some reason, you can just use ChatGPT. Just ask ChatGPT um, how much calories the certain ingredients have that you put in your food, right? So, quick interruption, guys. If you didn't already know, I actually have an online program. It's called Skinny to Jacked Academy. It's my online community where I teach skinny men how to build muscle efficiently without much equipment and time. And in my program, we stick to the basics and I actually focus on what works and what has worked for me, as you can see. And by joining, you'll have access to lots of things like one weekly one-on-one coaching call with me, where we will discuss your progress, your routines, etc. Also, you can ask me any kind of questions. I'll help you out, no problem. You're gonna get a personalized workout routine and split based on your specific schedule. I'm gonna make this personally for you. Basically, you're gonna show me your schedule, and I will craft a split and routine that works for you. It does not matter even if you have twice a week, 20 minutes, it doesn't matter, we can make something work. Also, you're gonna have a forum where you can ask any sort of question and you're gonna get it answered very quickly, I promise that. You also have PDFs with sample stuff like recipes for gaining muscle and example workouts for your level of equipment. Basically, if you train at home with no equipment, if you have a fully equipped gym, or if you have everything, right? So let's get back to the video. So for skinny beginners, I would recommend having a bulking slash gaining phase, simply because being lean with no muscle won't give you any aesthetic results, right? Marathon runners are a good example. They are very lean, but they have no muscle mass and they don't look good. Secondly, when you're skinny, it's most likely that you have an ectomorph body type, which means that you will always be rather lean. Doesn't it? Unless you eat 6,000 calories a day, of course. But generally, even if you eat a bit more, you always be on the leaner side. It's not like you can get fat very fast, right? And like I said, you're skinny anyway. You want to gain weight. You want to gain muscle. Why would you not have a bulking phase at the beginning, at least? Later, it's a different story. So, a bulking phase should mean that you eat 300 to 500 calories in your surplus. Basically, you calculate your maintenance calories. You can just type that in on Google. However, I found a simple rule of thumb formula, right? You take your body weight in kg times 30. I think it's for pounds it would be times 80, but I'm not sure. Type that in, search it somewhere on Google up, right? But generally speaking, if you want a more sort of exact way for maintenance calories, type it in on Google. There's a lot of these maintenance calories calculators that also calculate in your height, your level of activity, your age, and whatever. So make sure the calories don't come from trash. Please don't fill that surplus with donuts and Nutella and whatever, okay? I assume that you want to stay somewhat healthy, so please don't do that. That's a big mistake. That's the way you're gonna get fat, right? So, great foods that are high in calories would be peanut butter, oats, bananas. You would also have any kind of nut butter, nuts in general. Beans also pretty high in calories, so those things, if you want to bulk, definitely eat them, right? Don't eat, don't fill your calories with crap, because this is gonna spike up your insulin sensitivity and you're gonna gain body fat, right? Next one, macronutrients. So, macros are basically things like protein, fats, carbs, these macronutrients. Micronutrients would be things like vitamins, right? But we're here to talk about macros. So, to keep it simple, eat 2 grams or 1 per kilogram or 1 gram per pound, depends on which country you live, right? Of protein per body weight. When you're a beginner, I want you to track it with an app. Basically, insert the ingredients that you would eat in a meal, and the app is going to tell you how much protein it has. Simply that you can get a sense of how much protein certain foods have per 100 grams, right? So that later you can get away with not tracking. So examples would be eggs, tuna, any meat, dairy, any kind of nut butter, beans, chickpeas. Things like these are very high in protein. Dairy also, cheese obviously also. Technically soya, I would not recommend you to eat soya simply because it's not that good for you. Um, yeah, also fish, any kind of seafood, things like that, right? Don't ignore carbs. This is something that a lot of people get wrong because they get told on social media that carbs are bad and low carb, keto diet, blah 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 blah. The thing is with carbs are things that give you energy, right? A quick tip for you, before your workout, about an hour to 30 minutes before your workout, take a little bit of carbs. Not too much, but just a little bit, a tiny bit. And your workout is going to feel different because you're going to have more energy, right? Carbs spike your insulin and give you energy. However, it's important that you get your carbs from good sources, so sweet potato, rice, sourdough bread. Bad sources would be lots of processed dough, so you know these like toast that you can get in the supermarket, these like slammed up, not really fluffy type of things. Don't eat that, okay? Please promise me that you won't buy that, right? Next we have sugar, candy, donuts, you know, that type of stuff. I'm not saying that you don't eat this at all, but I want that 90% of your diet should be clean. 90% of your diet or 80% has to be 90% has to be clean. Don't eat this all the time. It's okay if you eat this like once in 2 weeks or whatever, it's not that deep. But generally speaking, please stick to the good source of carbs. Sweet potato, rice, sourdough bread, yeah, things like that. And don't skip fats. So healthy fats help building testosterone and growth hormone, and and I think I talked about it in some other video about workout splits, that those are the things that help you build muscle the most, right? Testosterone and human growth hormone. And healthy fats, so things like nut butter, nuts, the fat that you find on meat actually, those are amazing for building testosterone and building your hormones. And I want you to please not skip it. So don't a quick tip for you, just don't buy lean beef. A lot of people go to the supermarket and to buy lean beef because they think it has less calories or whatever. But meat with fat is actually healthy for you if you want to gain muscle, right? Because it provides the necessary things for you to build testosterone and growth hormone. Next one we have meal timing. The timing of your meals. So, I don't want your meals to be spread throughout the whole day. What I mean by that is, let's say you eat at 7 a.m., then you eat at 2 p.m., and then you eat at 10 p.m. That is bad. So you should have a 10 to 12 eating window. For example, you eat your first meal at 7 a.m. That's how I do it, and then my last meal is at approximately 5 p.m., maybe 6 p.m. Right? Don't overcomplicate this too much. Um, very simply, 10 to 12 hours, pretty comfortable. Not too strict, not too big. Should work for most of us, right? So, within 2 hours after a workout, you should consume a meal that is full of protein, right? So basically, after you work out, you go home and you make yourself a meal full of protein. And that's also why most of us can't do intermediate fasting because of your jobs. Simply because if you would have an 8-hour time window, it might be possible that you finish a workout and you eat nothing for the rest of the day. And that's not ideal, right? If you can finish a workout at earliest at 7 p.m. for example, but you ate breakfast at no 7 a.m. it's better to eat after the workout than to stick to the intermediate fasting stuff, because this might be good for cutting, but if you want to gain muscle, please always eat after your workouts. Ideally within 2 hours, and eat a high protein meal. Don't eat donuts or ice cream or whatever. Eat these things that we talked about after your workout. So before your workout, eat a little bit of carbs. So an apple, a banana, maybe a rice cake, maybe some nuts or whatever. But don't do too much. Before a workout, I say before a workout, I'm talking about like 30 minutes to an hour, right? So ideally, yeah, when you pack your stuff and you're gonna go to the gym, or before if you work out at home, like an hour before you work out, eat an apple, and that's it for the pre-workout. Please don't overcomplicate it and take all these boosters and caffeine, and that's not good for you, okay? So next one is supplements. Now this is where you kind of see two extremes, right? Either there are people that take nothing, and people that take like 20 supplements. You don't want to be in any of these groups, okay? So I don't only want you to take the essentials, which is vitamin D, unless you live in a warm country in North Africa or whatever, where the sun basically shines like 300 days a year. But if you live in Northern Europe, in Canada, in northern parts of America, whatever, basically countries where there is not that much sun, please take vitamin D, especially in the winter. Right? In the summer, it's okay if you don't take vitamin D, it's fine. But in winter, I want you to take vitamin D, because your body needs vitamin D also to build testosterone, and generally speaking, to keep you in a better mood and to perform better, right? Just to be healthy. Second one is magnesium glycinate. Specifically, glycinate. Not any other variant, okay? Wait. I don't want you to take magnesium carbonate or oxide. It has to be glycinate, right? Simply because magnesium glycinate is the only magnesium that's actually absorbable absorbable through our human body, right? Magnesium oxide and carbonate aren't that absorbable, and you're gonna end up being bloated, and you might end up with gut issues, right? So I would say the following: if you can't get your hands on magnesium glycinate, don't bother taking magnesium at all. Okay? So either you take glycinate or don't take one at all. So if you know that you have any kind of vitamin deficiency, for example, I'm vitamin A deficient, right? Take supplements for that. Or if you're iron, I'm also iron deficient, so I take iron, vitamin A, and vitamin D. Now I can't get my hands on magnesium glycinate, so I just don't take magnesium at all. Either you take this one or that one. Right, but for example, let's say you miss vitamin B, then take vitamin B, vitamin C, then take vitamin C, and whatever, right? Or any kind of other supplement like iron, zinc. If you miss any of that, um, please take supplements for that. But generally speaking, if you eat a healthy, well nutritious diet, you shouldn't have that much problems with vitamin deficiency. So let's come to the conclusion and basically to the end of this video, right? So I'm gonna make it very simple. Eat in a slight caloric surplus, so 300 to 500 calories. Eat high protein foods, things like meat, fish, dairy, and please don't neglect carbs and fats. They are not bad, but just eat them in a moderate source. Eat high protein meals within 2 hours after your workout. If you can't get the exact 2 hours, it's not that bad, but please don't finish a workout and eat nothing for the rest of the day. And take some supplements that, yeah, if you like, take some supplements, and the ones that are necessary to you if you have any kind of vitamin deficiency, right? So that would be it. See you. Bye.